Welcome to JK Tells a Story, where real-life dramas unfold. Sit back and enjoy today's tale. I watched them move around the floor. He held onto her as they moved together, swaying on their feet, seemingly moving as one. It was seamless, effortless, and they were obviously well-suited as partners. The look on my wife's face showed she was loving it. The music filled the room as the members gathered around, clapping and enjoying the couple's efforts on the dance floor. I had moved from my stool at the bar to look into the large function room where the dancing was taking place, to see my wife dancing with her partner. Her weekly dance practice was never my thing, but Sarah loved it. When we joined the community center, she was overjoyed to learn they had a dance section. I sipped my drink as I watched Sarah and her partner walk to the side of the room opposite me while still holding hands. They were engrossed in conversation about their performance. I felt a twinge of jealousy as I looked on, seeing their fingers intertwined as they chatted with another couple from the center. I hadn't arranged to meet her this evening. I dropped into the center on my way home after finishing work a little early. I was supposed to be finishing work at midnight tonight, but a job was completed early, so here I was with 3 hours to spare. So far she hadn't seen me arrive and was so engrossed in her dancing that nothing else mattered. She wasn't expecting me, so she wasn't looking for me. I saw her partner David. He was a few years older than us both. In fact, he had retired and was in his early 60s, almost 20 years our senior. He was a self-made type, confident in something of a ladies' man who had realized that the way to meet a variety of women was through being involved in the dance section of the center. The fact that he was a very good dancer also made him an attractive choice of partner to the women of the group. Sarah had mentioned him to me several times and said he was a sought-after partner by the ladies in the group because he was so good. I had zoned out after hearing how good he was repeatedly. Maybe that was why I had turned up to check him out. I had told myself not to be stupid, but nonetheless, here I was watching and sizing him up. We had been married for 20 years and had 2 teenage children, Emma, who was just 18, and Jake at 16. Both were very independent and starting to lead their own lives outside of the family nest. In fact, both were enjoying a full social life at present, which left us as parents alone in the family home more often than not. Hence the decision we both agreed on some years ago to broaden our social circle and join our local community center, which had a variety of events including dancing as well as regular organized trips and fun days out. All in all, we settled into a routine of getting involved both together and separately in various activities, but the deal was that it was not to impinge on our time together. That agreement had worked fine until recently when Sarah started to become more involved with her love of dancing. It slowly seemed to be the one singular thing she wanted to do and spend her time doing. Apart from the fact that she did it alone, as I was no dancer and thus not included in this activity with my wife, it was okay at the start. But of late it had been noticeable at home that the dance evenings and practices had increased from once a fortnight to weekly, with the occasional extra practice night thrown in for good measure. It happened slowly over a period of a few months, I suppose, but here I was sitting at a table in the corner of the function room, watching my wife holding hands with another man openly while I sipped my JD. The group of about 20 people or so were totally oblivious to my presence in the corner of the room as they chatted excitedly together. I watched as she stood with her partner close behind her, his arms snaked around her waist, holding her possessively. They looked so natural and casual together. It worried me. I could feel the rage brewing inside me as I looked on as David held on to her. She made no attempt to move away or keep an appropriate distance between them. My blood was starting to boil. I put my drink down and braced myself to move. I was going to break up this little party when the group dispersed and the music started again. The couples milled around for a few seconds, and then I saw my wife emerge from the crowd with a new partner. I sat back in my seat as I scanned the pairings. Her new partner was another older guy. Then I saw that all the men were in their 60s or so, I thought from their looks anyway, and the majority of the women were much younger. No wonder they were smiling, I thought to myself. The pairs moved around the floor. As I watched, the guy dancing with my wife held her tight against him, and I noticed his hand was firmly lodged on her lower back. They were seeming amiable as they danced. In fact, Sarah looked a little flushed at one point. I decided I had had enough of watching and slipped away back to the bar. Their session would be finished in a few minutes, so I would wait in the bar for her and act casual. I got another drink and sat beside one of the fruit machines. The bar was quite busy, so I melted into the background. I watched as the dancers exited the function room and milled around the bar area. I waited, but Sarah did not appear. After 5 minutes, I squeezed through the crowd and peered into the function room to find it empty. No one in sight. Perplexed, I looked through the crowd of people again in case she was in the middle or something. There was no sign of her. Tellingly, there was no sign of her partner David or the other guy either. Strange. I moved slowly through the bar towards the exit. Outside in the cool evening air, I looked across the car park. Nothing stirred. I couldn't see anyone, just cars. I reasoned she must have gotten a lift home or something. That's what I tried to tell myself anyway, but I was having a difficult time believing it somehow. There was just something not quite right. I started my mind down the pathway of suspicion, replaying the look she exchanged with David and that other guy, the way they held hands, his arm around her waist so openly. Now slipping out like this, what was going on? I walked to my car as my mind filled with mistrust, imagining all sorts but with nothing really to go on to substantiate it. Just a gut feeling that something was not right. I started my car and pulled out of the car park. If she had gotten a lift home, she should be there waiting for me. It was just after 9:30 p.m. Sarah wasn't expecting me until after midnight, so we would have time for some fun tonight, which would be good, I thought as I drove towards home. I hit the garage door remote and slid my car inside with no fuss as usual. We had a big double garage. Sarah's car was parked in its usual spot. I slid my hand along the bonnet. It was cold, so maybe she had gotten a lift to the center. I exited the garage through the rear door and into our backyard before entering the house through the kitchen door. It was locked. I used my key to get in and felt the house was empty. That sort of hollow sensation of quiet emptiness echoed at me. I looked at the clock. It was 9:55 p.m. There was no way, if she had left to come home before me, that I had passed her. Was there? I went upstairs, stripped out of my clothes, and got in the shower. The hot jets of water poured over my head and face as my mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. If indeed anything was happening. Wide awake and refreshed, I toweled myself down and slipped into some fresh clothes. It was 10:30 p.m. Where the hell is she? I asked myself, and who is she with? I could feel my anger bubbling under the surface, threatening to burst out. But who at? I was alone. I needed answers quickly or I would go nuts. By 11:05 p.m., I was pacing the floor, worried, concerned, angry, livid, and totally pissed off. Something was going on for sure. This was not like her. Or was it? I worked late shifts every 3 weeks at the local yellow cab depot. I was a supervisor, so not a driver who got really dirty, more a sort of lower management position. Still a good job, but the shifts were a pain in that respect. I suppose there were opportunities for her to step out on me during the 3rd week of the rotation, every night from Monday to Friday if she wanted to. There had been no telltale dropping off of the intimacy between us, although when I did the late shift, that was a week of no intimacy until the weekend usually. But that was okay really, and we had gotten into that routine. I sat thinking about what to do. Do I confront her tonight? What did I actually know? Not very much really, only my suspicions and gut feeling. I knew I needed more. I needed to know exactly what the hell was going on. I looked at the clock. It was 11:27 p.m. Sarah would not be expecting me home for at least an hour or so. So maybe, if she was up to something, she would want to be home before too long. I ran back upstairs, cleaned the shower quickly, and grabbed my dirty clothes before hustling back down the stairs. I slipped out the back door, locking it behind me, and into the garage. It was 11:38 p.m. Should I get out of there in my car or hide in the garage? She wouldn't need to come in here as her car was already here, so I reasoned she would go through the front door. I sat in my car and waited. I disabled the garage door just in case. I didn't want to get caught hiding, did I? I sat in the dark. The silence was deafening. At 11:58 p.m., I heard a car ease to a stop outside my house. I heard the engine ticking over quietly as my heart pounded in my chest. My ears were filled with the sound of my blood pumping around my body. At 12:03 a.m., I heard a car door close and the engine slowly increase in volume as it pulled quietly away. The next sound was my front door opening and closing. I breathed a sigh of relief. Why relief? I don't know, but my body relaxed for a few seconds. Then I felt the tangible tightening of my muscles as the rage started deep inside again. I forced myself to sit waiting until 12:18 a.m. I took a few deep breaths and exited the garage. I opened the back door. It was unlocked this time. She must have done that, I thought. Curious. I stepped into the kitchen and called out, "It's only me." I heard a voice answer from upstairs. "I love you. Okay? I'm drying my hair." I dumped my dirty washing in the washing machine and noticed there were a few items there already. Curiosity got the better of me, and I fished out what turned out to be Sarah's underwear, bra and panties, that nice purple set she bought just recently. I had to look, so I felt her panties. They were soaked. I could smell her scent and a very strong scent of something else. I tossed them back in the machine and walked to the stairs. The evidence was stacking up. It was enough to cause one almighty row for sure, but I needed irrefutable proof. I wanted to show it was undeniable. I wanted the moral high ground and the evidence to back it up. Retribution would come later, but I wanted there to be no doubt that when I lit the fire, it could not be put out. I suddenly thought about the kids. Where were they? I hadn't given either of them much thought before, and they definitely were not home. It was Wednesday. Think. Neither of them had college this week, so they were probably staying over at friends. Yes, that must be it. I trudged up the stairs towards our bedroom, my heart heavy but pounding like a steam hammer in my chest. I was walking into the unknown, or maybe just an uncertain future. There would have to be a confrontation, but I needed to know what the hell was going on first. I saw Sarah sitting in front of her dressing table, drying her hair. She turned, smiling at me. "How was your evening?" I asked her. "Oh, it was okay. I went to dance as usual. Brian picked me up." "Have you met him at the center?" She smiled again. "No, I don't think I've had the pleasure." "Does he dance too?" "Yes, he does. He brings his wife along too. He gave me a lift tonight too." She looked at me as if gauging my reaction to this snippet of information. "Have you just had a shower, love?" I asked her, seeing she was wrapped in a towel. Her eyes narrowed a little as she realized her situation. "Yes, I showered a while ago. Just haven't got into my night things yet and decided to wash my hair too. I know it's late, but it felt a little clammy, and you know I can't bear that." Her face flushed a little as she turned away, fussing with her hair. I bit my lip. I knew she was lying, but I had to be patient. I leaned over and kissed her on the cheek. "Well, I am bushed. I need to catch up on some sleep." I stepped around the bed, pulling my fresh clothes off quickly and jumping into bed. I lay back watching her in the mirror as she fussed with her hair. She saw me watching her and smiled, but I could tell there was unease in her smile this time. "You okay, love? You seem different or something," she said, looking at my reflection in the mirror. "I am fine, sweetheart, as long as you are, of course. I hope the dance session went well tonight. I know you love it. I was thinking maybe I should make an effort and start coming with you. It would be nice to meet some of the others or even take a few lessons too." "That would be nice, love. They are talking about a special trip to Las Vegas sometime soon too. Not sure when, but it could be a weekend away." I watched her as she looked at me in the mirror. She was trying to be cool, and there it was, the first mention of something out of the ordinary. Were they planning a weekend away together? Just the two of them? No, it couldn't be. They would never get away with that. Too many people would find out. Sarah slipped into bed after a few more minutes of teasing and drying her hair. As I lay back watching her, she kept glancing at me in the reflection of her mirror. I could feel her nervousness as she saw me watching her. I could detect and almost feel the guilt emanating from her across the bedroom. I smiled at her, which seemed to unnerve her even more as she finished her hair and applied her night creams, all the while feeling my eyes on her but saying nothing. It was as if neither of us wanted to be the first to crack and say anything. A battle of wills almost. Inwardly, I was in turmoil and barely holding it together at this point. Eventually, Sarah slid under the covers and clicked the bedside light off, seeking the security of the dark as she whispered, "Good night, Mike." I lay in the dark, my mind whirling as I tried to process what I had discovered this evening. I was as sure as I could be that Sarah was engaged in something with her dance partner, or maybe it was the other guy I saw her dancing with. I knew her underwear was soaked in male aromas, or at least her own juices, but in my mind I knew it was the former. Now there was this trip to Las Vegas that had surfaced out of nowhere. I knew it's the mecca for dancers, but I don't recall any mention of it at the center. That could be explained, I suppose. I then started to wonder where she had been since 9:30 p.m. and how fortuitous it was that she arrived home just before my usual finish time. Coincidence? Innocent? Maybe. No, something was definitely going on here. As I lay in the dark listening to her steady breathing, I committed to finding out exactly what and with whom before I tipped my hand to her. There would be consequences. I woke early to find Sarah already up and the smell of fresh coffee wafted from the kitchen. I followed the scent after a quick shower and dressing. I padded down the stairs and found her sitting at the table, scanning the newspaper. Breakfast TV was on in the background, providing a soft murmur that filled what could have been an awkward silence. She looked up at me, her eyes peering over the rims of her glasses. For some reason, I always found that look sexy. It was no different this morning, and she knew it too. "Morning, lover. How are you this morning?" she asked. I looked at her smiling, although inside I was cautious from how I felt last night. I didn't want to confront her too soon, so I put on my happy face. "I'm good, babe. All the better for a good night's sleep." I poured coffee and offered her a top-up. She shook her head. Sitting down, I grabbed some toast and took a bite as I looked at her, trying to work out what she was thinking or if I even knew who she was anymore. "So how was dancing last night?" I asked, grabbing the sports section of the paper and opening it up while looking at her over the edge of the paper. She didn't raise her head from looking down at her section of the paper as she replied, "Oh, as usual. It was the same crowd anyway. I told you that last night. Sorry, but I was rather tired when you got in, by the way." Her eyes never left the paper as she spoke. "That's okay, love. I was knackered myself, so I wasn't expecting anything. I guessed you had a busy day too, so it's all good." I looked over at her again. She was still avoiding eye contact. I smiled to myself. Is that guilt, maybe? "I have to go see a mate this morning. Won't be too long, though. Did you say something about a trip with the center or something last night?" I wasn't really paying attention. I watched closely for any signs of reaction from her. She seemed to stiffen just momentarily, but then flipped a page of her paper before answering. "Oh yes. Did I mention it? I suppose I must have. Well, that's right. A few of the dance group were discussing a trip to Las Vegas. The casino ballrooms and all that. I don't know much about it, but it's a weekend trip. One of the guys is looking at booking a hotel for maybe a few of us. I don't have any details yet or a date, but it may be soon. Would you be okay with that?" I looked at her as she tried to give me the gist of the trip without any details. She was giving a good performance, that's for sure. "Is it for couples, as in man and wife, or just dance partners?" I asked casually. "I don't think there are many places. Could be as few as 4 couples, so I think it's dance partners. There's a chance to dance at the ballrooms there too, so places are limited. I won't put my name down to go if you don't want me to," she said, looking across at me over the rims of her glasses. I held her gaze for a second or two as I thought about it. We had been away on weekends separately before, so there was no reason to refuse or balk at this one. However, I had something to worry about this time. I played my best poker face. "I'm sure it will be a really special weekend, and I know you have always wanted to go there, so why not go for it?" I was surprised by her reaction. She seemed to leap from her seat and grab my face, planting her lips on mine with the hottest kiss I had had at that time of the morning in some time. "Oh, Mike, thank you. It means so much to me. I won't forget this. I really won't. When I get back, I will make it up to you." "Thank you," she gushed. I prized myself free from her grasp as I tried to fathom the sudden onrush of affection. I allowed myself a smug smile as I patted her on the bum and got up to leave. "I won't be long, love. I need to drop by Tony's. See you about lunchtime." Sarah was still smiling as I left, and so was I. I had gotten through that without getting angry or tipping my hand. I was rather proud of myself. Then I thought, wasn't the point here that I was almost spying on my own wife, who I now suspected of cheating behind my back? What on earth state was our marriage in if we indeed still had one? I drove to my mate Tony's place. We had known each other since school and played golf together every other weekend. It was normal for us to hang out together, so Sarah wouldn't be surprised at me going over there. He was married and had a couple of kids about the same age as mine, so we had often shared tales of teenage angst and tantrums over a beer at the 19th hole in the past. I pulled up outside his place, and he was pushing his mower along the front lawn. "Hi, Mike. What's the occasion? It's not Sunday, is it?" He hollered as he turned and mowed away from me. I stood watching him as he turned and headed back toward me. "You got something on your mind. I can tell. I know that look. Be with you in a minute. Go inside while I put this away. Everybody's out, so we won't be disturbed." I went through his open garage door and stepped into the house. It was quiet as I wandered through to the kitchen. I could see the trappings of his family everywhere. Felt like a home. Lived in, welcoming, and comfortable. I sat at the breakfast bar, checked the coffee machine was loaded, flipped the switch and waited. Tony clattered through the doorway. He was always a bit clumsy. "So what is it, Mike?" he asked, sitting facing me on a stool, concern filling his eyes. "I'm not sure." "Well, I am as sure as I can be, but I think no, I know, Sarah is stepping out on me." I watched his face as the words sank in. "Screw off, Mike. You're kidding me. No way. You must be mistaken." I sat silent as he looked at me. "Oh my God, you're serious. Tell me, mate, what can I do? Do you know who, how, or where? I mean, sorry, but it's a shock, you know? Whatever you need, mate, I'm here for you. Okay? Are you really sure?" I could feel my eyes filling up as my heart ached. I bit my lip as I looked at him, my best friend. I needed help. I needed something. I didn't know it yet, but I definitely needed something. Tony put his hand on my shoulder. "Screw it. Come on, man, we can deal with this. Tell me what you know. I'm assuming you haven't said anything to her yet." I tried to pull myself together and took a few deep breaths before I could answer him. For the next several minutes I filled Tony in on what I knew, what I had seen, and now suspected. He sat back, his face pale as he saw the effect it was taking on me. I could tell by his face that this was serious too, which in a way added to my distress. As I finished my tale of woe, I seemed to feel a little better. I got a few tears out of the way too. What an idiot, I thought to myself. What are you going to do, Mike? Confront her or what? Yes, I will do that, but I need to know the extent of this. I get the feeling there's more to this. She's dropping hints about a trip to Las Vegas soon with the dancers at the center, so I have an idea that it's a cover for some extra fun. I looked out the kitchen window at the manicured lawn and the apple trees that I had helped him plant a few years back. Tony's eyes followed mine. I remember that too. It was a great day, and every year we get more apples as a reminder. Mom would have loved them. Yes, I know. She used to love her apple pies. It seemed fitting somehow to plant them in her memory. Tony's mom had been so good to me after my own parents passed. She looked after me when I was a wayward teenager. I owed that woman so much. How I needed her wisdom now. If she were here, she would have slapped Sarah into next week for sure. We both laughed at that. She was a no-nonsense Chicagoan, as they say, but with a heart as big as a lion. No one messed with her kids or her family. She was fearless but always fair, without question. "So what are we going to do, mate?" Tony asked. "I need to find out more about the guys in that dance section. I saw one or two that I wouldn't trust with next door's cat, let alone my wife. David and Brian, I don't know any others, but those two were definite maybes." Mike, think logically. If it's just those two, are they married? Do their partners or wives know what's going on? Are they involved? He looked at me as I registered his questions. They were things I had not considered yet, although there were possibilities for some form of retribution. I knew I needed information on the two guys she has mentioned already and somehow find out about other members too. They all seemed to be very tight when I saw them the other evening, so your guess is as good as mine. I have to keep it together until I know more. Just the thought of this is making my blood boil. Tony looked at his friend. Hang in there, mate. We will get to the bottom of this, then maybe kick some ass too. Okay? Look, I will get Lisa to maybe ask around the women and see if anything turns up on these guys. In the meantime, don't worry. I'll tell her to be careful. We don't want to spook them. I appreciate that, man. I do need help and someone to be in my corner at the moment. I think I will steer clear of the center for a few days in case I bump into one of them. So don't worry. Okay? We sat for another hour just talking around options and potential plans for revenge. Some were outlandish, of course, but the mere fact I was thinking that way seemed cathartic somehow. I looked at the clock. It was after 1 p.m. Sarah would be wondering where I was. Well, maybe. I hoped so, but there was no call to my mobile phone. I left Tony with a promise to speak again tomorrow or as soon as there was any news. Driving slowly back towards home, my mind weighed down with thoughts of my wife. I thought we were okay, even happy. I never saw this coming, but now with the veil of betrayal lifted a little, I could see where there were opportunities and, to be honest, even small signs too. Hindsight is wonderful. Damn it, I had blindly waved her off every week without a thought of any potential trouble. How stupid was I? How trusting too. Why didn't I just go with her? I had to get a grip if I was to face my wife. I couldn't allow what I knew to burst out and turn into a confrontation just yet. If I was to get any satisfaction from this affair, I needed to get all of them, every last one of them. As I pulled into my driveway, I saw the garage door was up and Sarah's car wasn't there. I parked and went inside to an empty house. Thankfully, both our kids were away staying with friends and having a great time, no doubt. I was glad of it really, as I had to get control of myself and maybe take a look around to see if I could find any clues as to what was going on. I spent the next hour or so checking our PC and email accounts for any clues. Nothing. I had a quick look around upstairs in her drawers and closets. Again, nothing. I sat in the kitchen, frustrated and wondering where to look next. It seemed possible that there was no paper trail and it could all be word of mouth. That would be safer and not leave anything to be found. There had to be something somewhere. Picked up my phone and stared at it. Of course, it wouldn't be perfect, but it would be a start and might give some clues. I searched the App Store and found a tracker. Okay, all I needed to do was load it onto my phone and Sarah's. At least then I might see where she was going. It was something I had to do. I downloaded the software and set it up on my phone. When Sarah came home, I would do the same to hers, if I could get it from her, that is. Of course, that's where any evidence, if it exists, will be located. I needed her phone. I had to get into it and check for messages and texts. There had to be something, no matter how small. I couldn't think of anywhere else and reasoned they had to communicate somehow. A few minutes after 2 p.m., I heard Sarah's car pull into the driveway. The clicking of her heels on the brick paving echoed as she approached the front door. I looked towards the lounge door as she appeared. Her eyes met mine, and for a split second I saw something. Nervousness? Fear? Maybe. I knew then she had been up to something, and so fast after our brief chat earlier too. I watched as she dropped her handbag beside the sofa as she entered the kitchen. I smiled my best welcome home smile and offered to pour coffee. She nodded gratefully. We sat opposite each other at the breakfast bar as we sipped our coffees. "How's Tony?" she asked, as if to fill the silence. "He is good. We are thinking about a fishing trip, as it happens. Maybe while you are away dancing with your partners, if that's okay with you, of course. Lisa is interested in your trip too. So if there's a spare place, she would like to join you if you could find out and let her know." I watched her face flush slightly before she replied. "Oh, that's a shame. I found out just this morning that there are no places left now. I will make sure she gets to know when the next trip is arranged, though." She looked at me with a slightly troubled look on her face, but the actor in her covered that with a belligerent look, almost smug, before she quickly returned to normal. She looked at me as she finished her coffee. I returned to looking through the sports section of the paper. "I'm going to get in the shower. I feel a little grubby." "Okay, sweetie," I replied, keeping my head down. She stood and headed upstairs to take her shower. I wondered how she could have gotten grubby just after lunchtime, but took the opportunity to grab her mobile from her handbag. Inside 10 minutes, I had the tracking software loaded and working, the important bit done. I had a quick look through her messages. There were a few to a couple of contacts, with a handful sent and received this morning after I left to go to Tony's. I took the IDs and numbers of the contacts. The IDs were just initials, oddly, but matched the guys' names from the center. I was in some way relieved that she only messaged 3 people, so maybe it was a small group. I read the messages, but they were just one-liners stating things were all okay but no other details. I wasn't sure how long she would be in the shower, so I left it at that for now. I just confirmed they were in contact and how, so that was enough for the moment. I also spotted an email account, so I took the username down. Although the password was coded, I knew it was 8 characters long. I would work on that later, I thought. The last thing I quickly looked at was the call logs. Armed with the numbers I had written down, I checked, and sure enough, there were a lot of calls to the same numbers. Okay, enough for now. The next couple of days were tense for me, but also an anticlimax in some ways, with nothing apparently happening. My mind was consumed with images and what-ifs as well as a barrage of questions. Why? How? On how many? Even filled with my own thoughts, it was exhausting getting through each day. I begged off any intimate contact with Sarah, which turned out to be easier than I expected. She did look at me sideways a couple of times, but nothing was said. The trip was arranged for the coming weekend. Sarah was excited and had her dancing ensembles packed and ready by Wednesday. It seemed she was really looking forward to it for some reason. Although I never said anything, I was watching everything. Her evenings at the center seemed to have gotten her excited, and she arrived home later than usual. Her face seemed flushed too. I sat sipping a large JD when she came through the door. "Have fun tonight, love?" I queried nonchalantly. Yes, it was good. We were going over the arrangements for the weekend, travel and hotels and such. I didn't ask for details and was waiting for her to offer the information. I waited, but it never came, so I let it go. She didn't know, but I had all I needed already. Tony's wife had been busy and a little lucky when she was chatting to Brian's wife. She saw a copy of the hotel reservation for 2 rooms. Seems like it was just 4 of them going after all. How cozy. Thursday I went over to Tony's. "So what's the plan?" he asked as Lisa poured us a drink. "I want to really kick some ass, but I'm worried I'll end up killing somebody. I don't want to end up in jail. I'm going to try for some humiliation, try to screw things up a little. Maybe I know it's childish, but what options do I have for some revenge? Me and Sarah are toast anyway. I won't have her back after this weekend under no circumstances. I intend to shift all her stuff out and have it ready to move to her parents' place. She will not set foot back in my house after she leaves on Friday. No chance." Tony looked at me, his eyes wide as he saw how angry I was. Lisa stood behind me, her hands on my shoulders as I tried to hold it together. I cracked and started to sob. The first time since I found out what was going on. Lisa's arms wrapped around my neck as she whispered in my ear, "Hang in there, big guy. We are here for you whatever happens." The feel of her behind me reminded me of what I was now missing in my life. I couldn't remember the last time Sarah and I had hugged each other like this, or even when we had actually touched each other. I knew it had been a couple of weeks or more since we had intimacy. The tears flowed freely down my face as I silently sobbed. I made a supreme effort and pulled myself together. The ache in my chest where my heart once lived was constant, but I had to get through the next few days and weeks. Tomorrow will be hard when I wave her off. I know what she has planned, but I have to let it happen. Stopping her now will not erase what she has already done or what she may do in the future. Our marriage is busted, no way back. I clenched my fist as Lisa hung on to me. Tony reached out, his hand on mine. "Let's get into it, Mike. Let's do the creeps. We will find a way to screw them all over. Trust me, they will not get away with this." Friday I left work early as Sarah was due to leave by 4 p.m. Brian and his wife were driving up, and Sarah was taking her car to meet with the others and go with them. It wasn't specified who the others were exactly, but I already knew who she was meeting anyway, so I expected her car to be parked at his place for the weekend. It was about a 4-hour drive to Las Vegas, but it was easier to drive than to use the train. More convenient too, she pointed out, if she wanted to come home early or go out maybe. I helped Sarah load her 2 suitcases into her car. She seemed excited but distracted as I felt her looking at me while I loaded the cases. I turned and gave her my best actor smile. You okay with me going, Mike? She asked, looking into my eyes, searching for something. Why wouldn't I be? It's not like you're off for a dirty weekend now, is it? You love dancing, and I've always wanted to do this. I just wish I could come too. Anyway, you have fun and enjoy yourself. Tony and I are going fishing with a couple of mates, so that will keep my mind off what you're up to. She looked at me strangely. Was that a tinge of guilt I saw? Maybe her conscience was getting to her. Just then her phone rang, breaking the moment. She rustled in her bag and looked at the screen. They're waiting on me, sweetie. I have to run. She wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me like there was no tomorrow. We hadn't shared a kiss like that in ages. I looked into her eyes. I knew what I saw, guilt. What she saw in mine, I have no idea. Maybe sadness. She slid into the driver's seat and flashed me a smile as she started the engine and slipped off the driveway. I waved as she left, my face wet with tears as I knew it was now over. Turning, I went into the garage and pulled out the cartons I had covered up and took 2 upstairs to our bedroom. I pulled her clothes from the wardrobe and drawers, makeup and toiletries too, stuffing them into the cartons before sealing them and rolling them down the stairs. Inside an hour, I had all her stuff packed and stacked ready to be collected. I sat down, breathing heavily, when the house phone rang. Mike, it's Tony. How are you doing? All bagged and tagged here, mate. Just taking a breather is all. Okay, well, take it easy on the drink. We have an alibi to build, my friend. I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. Okay? Sure, I will be ready. Now that I've started, I need to keep busy. I'll pop over to her parents' place later, show my face and give them a story. I checked the phone locator, and by the way, she did go to that asshole's home address, so that's something we can take care of quickly too. See you in the morning. I sat in the quiet of the house, feeling the emptiness, watching the clock slowly tick around. It was almost 6 p.m. now. She had been gone almost 2 hours. I checked the locator and saw she was still at the asshole's address, not more than 3 miles from here. Maybe they were spending some time together before they traveled. My heart gave another painful ache. She has no idea what she has done to me. Well, screw you. I threw the glass across the room, smashing it against the wedding photo we kept on the mantel. I stood looking at the remains of the glass and my marriage before striding out the door to my car. I drove to Sarah's parents' place. It was almost 7:30 p.m. by the time I got there. As usual, they were happy to see me but asked where she was. She's gone off to Las Vegas with a couple of people from the center. They're going dancing at the casino ballrooms. That's lovely. I wish I had known. I would have gone, her mom said. Yes, that's what I said too. Still, never mind. I'm going fishing with Tony for the weekend and probably drown my sorrows in the meantime. Just wanted to let you know in case you dropped by the house. Thanks for that, Mike. We appreciate your thoughtfulness. Her dad chimed in. One other thing, we were having a clear out and I have a dozen or so boxes of stuff that Sarah asked me to drop off here for some reason. She said she would sort it out when she gets back. Is it okay if I drop them off tomorrow morning? Yes, of course. We'll put them in the garage for now. Thanks. Well, I will see you in the morning then. We said good night and I left for home, somewhat saddened, as they were nice people. I decided I would write them a letter to explain things as I wouldn't be able to face them after tomorrow. Saturday morning I woke with my heart still heavy and my head pounding. I had not slept well, with visions of what my wife was doing with David in their room. I knew I would be receiving some pictures from an investigator I had hired during the week. I had engaged him for 2 days starting Friday night. He was cheap but seemed to know his stuff and was local, so he knew the hotel well too. Once I had given him the details, he had the place staked out, and I expected an update this morning. Checking the emails, there it was, a message with an attachment. There were a dozen photos all showing Sarah in the arms of David as they sat in a bar and then walked back to the hotel. Even one showed them sharing a kiss outside the door of their room. Another couple was with them, and they all seemed to be enjoying themselves. The last photo showed them entering their rooms. That was enough for me. We were done. Tony arrived, and we set about loading the boxes into his truck. By lunchtime, we had dropped everything off and were back in my kitchen drinking coffee. We need to pop into the center, show our faces and spread our alibi, Mike, said Tony. Come on, let's get moving. We are supposed to be going fishing too, by the way. We loaded fishing gear into and on top of Tony's truck and drove to the center where we chatted with as many of the members as possible for an hour, mentioning fishing until even we were bored with the subject. We also made sure Tony's truck was spotted on the CCTV with the rods on the roof. Job done. We left just after 2 p.m., dropping by my house to pick up my car. We drove to a lake a few miles away and made sure the owners knew we were there, buying our date stamp tickets before driving around and finding a quiet spot to set up. The lake was very quiet, which suited us. Following a well-practiced routine, we had rods and tents set up in what looked like a comfortable camp. Well, that's what it was supposed to look like. With the rods and bait out, we sat back and waited. At 7 p.m., a truck pulled in behind us, and Gas stumbled towards us. Gas is another friend we go way back, almost to elementary school, and he was one of the very small circle of guys I trust without question. "Okay, I'm here. Any beer on the go?" He looked around, grabbed a can, cracked it open, and took a deep swig as he sat in one of our chairs. "Bang on time. Good, man. How you doing, Gas?" Tony asked as he watched this bear of a man empty the can. "Good to see you, man. So you off then, or what? Rods all set, buzzers and all that, I hope. Go on, screw off, and I will see you when you get back," Gas said. He stood, hugged me in a big man hug. "Hang in there, man. Get it done, and then we can have some fun tomorrow." I looked at him. No words were needed. He knew my pain. His wife had cheated on him a couple of years ago. The thing was, Gas didn't take it too well. He confronted her and her lover before others stopped him. The guy was someone he knew from school. There was bad blood between them, and that feud rumbles on. His wife left town soon after. I know he would have her back in a heartbeat, but he is still intent on his feud at the moment. In my car, we were soon cruising down I-55, headed for Las Vegas. The plan was to fly from Chicago O'Hare. We'd already booked the last flight out Friday night and the first one back Saturday morning. As Tony drove us to the airport, I called the PI for the latest update. He told me he had more pictures and some video. He had managed to sweet-talk the hotel owner into letting him get closer somehow or other. Anyway, he had some footage that left no doubt about the group's activities. They had spent the best part of the afternoon engaged in intimate activities and swapping partners. He also confirmed that he had the photos too. I thanked him and said I didn't see any point in hanging around much longer. I asked if he could send me what he had in the morning. Tony could see my face as we listened to the PI on the Bluetooth. He reached out, squeezing my shoulder as I sat quietly after the call. "Why, Tony, man? Why is she doing this?" "Who knows why, dude, but it is what it is and we know what needs to be done. So let's get to it. Stay focused." We caught the 11:30 p.m. flight to Vegas. The plan was tight but doable. Land at 1 a.m. local time, do our business, catch the 6 a.m. flight back to Chicago. We'd be home by noon, well before Sarah was due back. We arrived in Vegas and took a cab straight to the hotel. We drove past slowly in the taxi, looking for their cars. We had the registration numbers and makes of the cars, so we had the driver circle the block until we spotted them parked next to each other in a quiet corner of the parking lot. We had the cab drop us off at a nearby casino, then walked back with our gear. Tony had packed light surgical gloves, dark glasses, and baseball caps. We looked like any other tourists stumbling around Vegas at 2 a.m. Hopping over the low wall that enclosed the parking area, we crept towards the cars. There was minimal security lighting, so we kept low and moved fast. Brian's car was first. I used my dispatch experience with GPS tracking to disable the car's navigation system first, something I'd learned from dealing with stolen cabs. The 4 valve stems were cut in seconds. A small pry bar levered the fuel cap open, and a fair amount of sand and sugar from Tony's backpack was poured into the tank. We couldn't help grinning as we did it. In under 2 minutes we were done before moving on to David's car. Same treatment, all 4 valves were cut off just for good measure, as well as topping up his fuel tank. There were also some decorative scratches added to the paint job with Tony's keys. Satisfied we had caused enough trouble, we scooted back over the wall and walked calmly back toward the strip. The flight back to Chicago was uneventful. I felt a strange sort of release of tension after what we had done. I was taking control back of my life. From now on, I was in charge. We landed at O'Hare at 11 a.m. and drove straight to David's house on the north side. I hopped out and used the spare keys I'd had copied from Sarah's keychain months ago when she first started spending time there. I jumped into my wife's car and quietly pulled it off the driveway. I had decided not to leave Sarah's car out of the fun. It was a 5-year-old Mini Cooper, a typical woman's car, so it needed modifying. We drove to a quiet alley near Wrigley Field and started the modifications. A small sledgehammer from Tony's truck took care of the windscreen, the sunroof, and the side windows. A spray can finish the artwork, an outline that looked questionable and a fake phone number looked rather good, I thought. It was almost 1 p.m. when we drove the car slowly back and parked it on David's driveway. With a quick look around, we eased Tony's truck away from the scene of the crime. We drove back to the lake where Gas was asleep with empty cans strewn around him. All the rods were pulled in and locked off. Looks like he decided against fishing then. I chuckled. Gas moaned as we snuck into the tent for some shut-eye. All okay? Was all he mumbled. No sweat, bud. Get some sleep. Sunday morning we woke after a couple of hours of sleep to heavy dew and the smell of eggs and bacon cooking. We stirred, and Lisa was standing there, cooking breakfast. I thought you boys would appreciate a hot breakfast, so here I am, she said. She had hauled the camping cooker and breakfast with her. Also, the owner and his wife will be here in a few minutes. I asked them to pop by. Can't have too many friends at a time like this, can we? I smiled as I crept from the sleeping bag. She was an angel and clever as hell. How the hell did you end up with such a woman, Tony? Hell if I know, man. I was never consulted, just seemed to happen one day. I love you guys. Even Gas. I may have lost my wife, but I still had some great friends. The owner of the lake strolled by with his wife, and we enjoyed hot coffee and bacon sandwiches. We had a group photo taken with the lake in the background and 2 double-figure carp in front. Gas had bagged the pair before finishing the beer and going to sleep. What a guy. Made a great picture too. We sat back, enjoying the warm late summer sun, when someone's mobile phone started chirping. Here it comes, smiled Tony as he looked at his watch. It was just after 11 a.m. Screw her. I smiled. We both resumed the childlike giggling. The ringing stopped, and a message beeped. A minute later it rang again. We were both now in fits of laughter. The calls and messages went on for the next 10 minutes. Then it went quiet. I bet they're on the move now, man. Would have taken a while to get the tires sorted. Oh, I forgot. They won't move, will they? Laughter broke out again. This time with tears rolling down our faces as Gas and Lisa watched, trying to understand what was so funny. Within another 30 minutes, the calls started again. More laughter, more ignored messages. We're all done, Tony said, nodding to me. We high-fived. Gas looked at us. Locks all changed, dude. He laughed too. We stayed at the lake for the afternoon. After the flurry of calls earlier, there had been silence for almost 3 hours. We assumed that their cars were being sorted out and that they were now traveling back. This was confirmed by the GPS tracker I had on Sarah's phone, something I'd learned to use from my dispatch work at Yellow Cab. It showed they had just left Las Vegas and were moving east on I-15. Oh well, it was fun while it lasted anyway, I thought. The next call was from Sarah as she must have arrived at David's place. I was assuming she liked my artwork. I heard the chirp of message after message on my phone. Then the texts. I ignored all of them. I wasn't ready for her yet. I wanted her to be as confused as I had been feeling. I wanted her to start to feel some of the guilt I felt. She needed to feel it too. I found myself getting angrier by the minute. Tony watched me closely. Easy, bro. Let her stew a little. You know she will call her old man sooner or later. Let it flow as we planned. Stay cool. I smiled as best I could at my friends. They looked anxious and concerned. Sooner or later it would all hit the fan too. Lisa would block Sarah from me. I knew she needed to suffer some, but this was just the start. I checked the tracker again, using the same kind of GPS monitoring system we use at the dispatch center. Somehow she had gone home. The calls started again, which started the giggling again as we listened to the phone taking yet another message. Sarah had obviously had quite an eventful day so far. Her lover's cars had been trashed, leaving her stranded in Vegas, hence the first set of calls home. Then, as soon as she managed to get a flight back to Chicago and went to collect her car, she found that it had been trashed too. This triggered the second phase of calls. Lo and behold, arriving at her house, she found that her keys didn't appear to work. That's where we were with the third set of calls. I looked at my phone. So far today, I had 34 calls from her mobile to mine, messages left, and at least a dozen texts, each message getting more irate. Good. It was now almost 9 p.m. The calls stopped. We all looked at each other during the silence, waiting for her next move. Sooner or later, she would call her parents, and then they might start adding to the number of calls. You can have the spare room, Mike. The bed is made up. We don't want you going home just yet. Don't want you doing anything stupid. Lisa grinned at me as she topped up my bourbon. Okay, I will stay till tomorrow. Then I will decide what to do. I have work to think about too. Call in, take a few days off. Apart from that, Sarah will know you were here otherwise. Good thinking. At around 11:30 p.m., the calls stopped. I checked the tracker and saw Sarah was back at David's place. I had miscalculated that move. I thought she would be at her parents' place. Obviously, she hadn't called them yet. I knew she would want to keep things quiet. Well, we'll see how long she can keep that up. Then I shared a few more bourbons with Tony before falling into bed just before 1 a.m. Sleep did eventually come. But it was fitful and filled with visions of Sarah and that asshole David. I woke up at 7:30 a.m. My head throbbed a bit, but I was otherwise okay. The shocking events of the weekend had left their mark on me. I was exhausted but felt wired at the same time. It was kind of weird, really. Lisa made a hearty breakfast, which I wolfed down. Today is the day then, Mike. Maybe I'll check out my place, but I expect her to show up at some point. I can't avoid her forever, can I? But it won't be until she comes clean with her parents first, and she will tell them, believe me or I will, with nothing held back. Are you sure this is what you want, Mike? I mean, is there no way back? Whatever you decide, Tony and I are behind you all the way. But please think about it before you go so far that there's no turning back. Lisa, I've had time to think about what she's been doing. My PI has sent me photos, and I'm waiting for video evidence this morning. I know what she has done. I don't know why, though. That's the thing. What have I done to cause this? I felt my emotions getting out of control again, and my eyes were misting up as the ache in my chest built, thinking of her with those bastards. I made a plan to screw up their weekend. I know it was childish, but it was better than ending up in jail for murder, although I still felt like doing them all in. Lisa hugged me tightly. I needed that so much right then. I was on the edge. I needed to stay calm and strong, but today was going to be difficult. I wanted nothing more than to confront the woman who had betrayed me and make her lovers pay for what they'd done. I was angry, yes. Maybe today was to be the day. I turned on my phone and sat in Tony's home office as I hooked up my laptop to the Wi-Fi. I heard Tony chatting with Lisa in the kitchen. I opened my email account, and Tony put his head around the door. You okay, Mike? He asked. He looked over my shoulder and saw what I was doing. You sure you want to see what's in there, man? I nodded grimly as I opened the message. The PI's message gave a brief report and indicated a more detailed report was attached, along with a zip file containing photos and video. I started to scroll as my heart pounded. Tony's hand was on my shoulder as I clicked on the photos. The screen filled with a slideshow that started with Sarah and David outside the hotel, then Brian and his wife in the bar. They all seemed very comfortable with each other, obviously. The pictures proceeded until there were shots from inside one of the rooms showing intimate moments between them. I felt queasy. My stomach churned as I watched the photos progress, showing my marriage on the brink of divorce. I heard a gasp behind me. Lisa had followed Tony into the small room. I turned. Her hand was over her mouth, and tears flowed freely down her face. She looked at me, and in seconds we were all sharing tears and a group hug as I sobbed over the end of my marriage. Tony turned the slideshow off. I am so sorry, Mike. So sorry. What the hell is she thinking? And with those two idiots. I could not answer him as I gasped for breath and tried to regain some control. My heart felt like a huge lump of stone in my chest. Now I felt dizzy. I couldn't move, frozen in my heartbreak. This settles it as far as I am concerned. I am not having that woman back. No way. I'm going to make her understand the consequences of what she's done. My friends saw my sadness morph into white-hot anger, and they feared for me. So did I, but I didn't care about the consequences now. My phone's ringtone broke the moment. Its loud, cheerful tones signified it was Sarah. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed it and pressed answer. "Yes," I said brusquely. "Oh, thank God, Mike. Are you okay? I got back last night, and someone has trashed my car, so I got a cab home. But then the lock on the front door seemed to have jammed. I couldn't get indoors, and I tried ringing you, but didn't get through. Are you still fishing or something? What is happening?" "Yes, something has happened," I answered without emotion. "Mike, come on. What's going on? Are you home now or on your way? I need to get cleaned up, or I will have to call work and take a day off." "Yes, Sarah, you might want to do that. I won't be home till later. I haven't decided yet." I let the words hang in the air. She was silent for a few seconds. "Mike, is there something wrong? You seem a little strange." "I'm going to be fine. It's been a stressful weekend, that's all. I spent some time with Tony and Lisa. I needed to think something through." "Think what through, lover? What time will you be home? I can't even get in the front door." "My future. Your future. Why don't you discuss it with them? Shouldn't you be doing that with your husband?" Sarah's voice was rising as she began to get a little frustrated with my cryptic comments. I think she was also beginning to sense that something was very wrong after everything that had happened in the past day or so. She was slowly starting to connect the dots, maybe. "I can help you like always," she proposed tentatively. "I'll let you know when I've made a decision." With that, I ended the call. I felt like ice. I don't know how I managed to stop myself from screaming at her, but my sadness was hanging on to me like an anchor, keeping me steady. As I put my phone down, it rang again. I ignored it before turning the ringer off. It sat on the desk, vibrating and flashing with each new call. Not once did she mention what was done to her car or that David's car had been wrecked. Both things I would have thought merited some mention. I was sure she was trying to keep a lid on the chaos at her end until she was sure what was going on. Now she knew something was afoot. David must have realized that it was no coincidence. Had they discussed it? Were they making plans to limit the damage or move on together? My heart ached at the thought of that, but my anger was fueled by the thought that they had spent the night together again. I needed to get control and not just react to events. I used the house phone and called an attorney, arranging a meeting to discuss divorce for the next day. I also called work and arranged a week off. I knew Sarah would be taking the day off, so she would be looking to track me down. It was only a matter of time before she arrived here. After making a few more calls, I went back to my laptop and dealt with the emails I needed to send. I decided to send a copy of the slideshow to the committee of the center and as many members as I could. I had a group address I used when dealing with some fundraising on their behalf, so I was sure at least a couple of hundred members would have a surprise when they opened their email accounts. I then went after Sarah's work colleagues. I knew there were a few people there who would enjoy seeing what she got up to after hours. Hell, they're going to know I'm a cuckold soon enough anyway, so be it. At least this way, there won't be the slow humiliation by rumor, innuendo, and whispers. I wanted it out there, and then people would be more interested in what Sarah had done rather than my situation as the betrayed husband. I grabbed a coffee from Lisa as I came out of the home office. She looked at me, concerned. For better or for worse, I have started the ball rolling. I can't undo it, but I can make it happen. Tony and Lisa looked at each other anxiously. "You know she's probably on her way here right now," Tony said. "Yes, I know. So I reckon I have about 20 minutes to get on my way. I'm going to dodge her for a day or so until she starts getting some feedback from the messages I've sent. I fully expect that to start any time now. I haven't told her parents yet. I want her to do that." I looked at my watch. I have to run. I gulped my coffee and hugged both my friends before grabbing my car keys and heading out the door. "We'll act dumb, Mike. As far as she's concerned, we went fishing. It won't hold water for long, but it'll buy you time. I drove quickly away and headed for the tollway. I just needed to get away while the shit hit the fan. I merged onto I-294 North and headed toward the northwestern suburbs. That would do for now. My phone continued to vibrate. So far today, I reckoned I had about a dozen missed calls. I pulled into a rest stop and decided to check my list of calls to see where my wife was. The tracker showed she was at Tony's. I smiled as I imagined the reception she was getting. They would hold on to the phishing story and drive Sarah nuts with it. I was sure she would be a little perplexed and confused until she started receiving messages from her friends at work. I chuckled to myself, thinking of what I was doing. It was like playing a game, but this was no game. This was my life, and it was deadly serious. I knew Sarah had left Tony's by now and was heading back toward David's place. The woman. Can't she stay away from that asshole? Well, I was sure I wouldn't have long to wait. It was 12:30 p.m., so my email should have hit inboxes, and the responses should be coming in very soon. Texts from Sarah. Oh dear. It looks like it started. Good. I chuckled again as I sat in my car. I decided to call Tony. Tony, it's Mike. How did it go, man? She's going crazy. We stuck to the fishing tale. Lisa nearly lost it a couple of times, though. She wanted to confront Sarah, especially when Sarah said she had a nice time in Vegas and couldn't understand what was wrong with you. I laughed. She's obviously trying to bluff it out. No mention of her car, I suppose. Oh yeah, she said she stayed at her parents' place. Like we didn't already know. I think you were right about her bluffing. No mention of her car. She turned up here in a cab. She had him wait outside. Just hang in there. Okay? You two have been great, by the way. Her bluff isn't going to hold for long. I reckon any minute now, her friends and work colleagues will be calling her. I'm going to lay low until tomorrow when I see my attorney. I'll call you then. Cheers, man. Love to Lisa. I headed around I-294 and turned off toward O'Hare, finding a small hotel that would do for a night or two. I hauled my duffel bag, which I had packed a few things into ahead of time, from the trunk of the car and booked in. The room was basic but comfortable. The quiet was overpowering, though. I laid out my laptop and phone, plugged in the chargers, and wandered round to the restaurant next door. It was after 3 p.m. now, and breakfast was a long time back. I picked up the menu at the bar and ordered a beer and a steak, sliding into a corner booth. I sipped my beer. It tasted sharp and went down easy. I was looking out the window at the parking lot and the distant sound of planes from O'Hare when the waitress brought my steak over. She smiled at me and set the plate down. I looked at her. She was pretty, I suppose, but her figure, although curvy, didn't register with me at all. I felt sort of dead inside. Numb. Like nothing mattered. I munched slowly through the steak. It was good, but not like the ones Sarah made at home. Another knife in my heart as I thought of all the things I would miss about her. She had been a really wonderful wife. Gorgeous looking, flirty, everything a man could want. Over the past year or so, I suppose things had settled down. Maybe work had been on the up for us both really, with more and more of our time tied up and climbing the corporate ladder. Financially, we were fine. We had our own bank accounts and credit cards, and money wasn't short, so we were comfortable. Our intimacy had taken a hit. Now that I think about it, things had been quiet for some months, and maybe I didn't realize we were growing apart. We both had our hobbies. I had my fishing, which used to be obsessive but now was more relaxed and sociable. Sarah had her dancing, fitness classes, and the occasional bridge night. I realized then that we were indeed spending more time apart than before. The fitness classes were what spurred her to start dancing again. She had been going with what's her name, that's it, Brian's wife. The gym was the beginning, then the dancing, then cards. When had she started playing bridge? For hell's sake. What was I, blind? I clenched my fist and banged the table, rocking my beer. There were a few odd looks from other customers in the bar. I blushed and calmed down, my mind working through what I now believe to be the start of my problems with Sarah. I sank another couple of beers before making my way back to my room. I sat on the bed as I waited for the kettle to boil. I needed a coffee. As far as I could work out, it was Brian and his wife who were the instigators of my wife's affair. They were swingers. Well, it made sense, that's why they swapped partners with David. But he had no partner, so he used my wife in his arrangements. I appeared to know who but had no idea as to why. I looked at my phone. It was still flashing with a host of messages and texts. Okay, it was time I took a look. The messages started yesterday, obviously all from Sarah. That is, until late afternoon when there was one from a number I recognized, David's. I hit that one and listened. I know I can't prove it, but I'm sure it was you who screwed with my car. I won't forget this. Seems like you know I've been involved with your wife for the past few months. Well, she's been willing, and she enjoys our time together. Yeah, me and Brian have both been with her several times too. She's quite enthusiastic, and I'm going to enjoy spending more time with her from now on. You do whatever you've got to do, man. I don't give a damn. She's here with me right now. We'll be continuing our evening in a few minutes. See you around, loser. I saved the message. I was really pissed now, and this guy was well worth pursuing legally. Screw it. He had obviously left the message without Sarah knowing. I reasoned. I grinned as I thought of the damage I did to his car. Petty for sure, but a start. I looked at the rest of the messages, nearly all from Sarah. Some after she found the door locked and more since we spoke this morning. There were a few others I didn't recognize. It turned out there were 2 from committee members at the center, and a storm was brewing over the members' behavior. I was advised that those concerned would be necessarily thrown out of the center. That was satisfying as a start, I thought. Then another couple of messages from 2 of Sarah's friends at work, asking if it was a hoax as they could not believe what they were seeing. Shocked, definitely. Disgusted, most certainly. I tapped out a follow-up message to all, stating that Sarah had gotten involved with a swinger group without my knowledge and was enjoying new partners outside of our marriage. I also added that I was not prepared to agree to or put up with this behavior and that from now on we were not together. I didn't listen to any more of Sarah's messages and checked my email. There was a long list of replies to my earlier messages, mostly expressing shock and disbelief at this turn of events. I forwarded all the responses to Sarah's email account so she would see how people were reacting to her betrayal. Petty, yes, but I wanted her to understand how many of her friends and colleagues knew what she was doing and how they felt about it too. I closed my laptop and crawled onto the bed. My coffee was a warm comfort before I tried to sleep. Tears filled my eyes as I recalled my life with the woman I loved and now obviously lost. Betrayal was all-consuming, clouded my thinking and made my heart ache. I felt anxious all the time. Adrenaline was coursing through me, making sleep difficult. As I wanted to confront the people who had done this to us, then I realized it was her. She had done this to us. At that moment, I wanted to make her pay. I was so angry. I drifted into sleep and surprisingly slept until almost 8 a.m. That's almost 9 hours, really good for me. I showered and shaved, looking at myself in the mirror. I looked as if I had aged 10 years since Friday. I stared into my eyes and saw a determined yet sad look. Screw it. Today we are going to deal with this. Screw them all. I dressed and had breakfast at the restaurant next door. In an hour, I was checked out and on my way back home. My mind was working fast yet calm and sort of blank at the same time. An icy calm wrapped around me like a protective shield. I would need it today. I met with my attorney, who listened to my case and started on the necessary paperwork straight away. I was not in the mood to listen to any talk of counseling or reconciliation and shut him down quickly. He soon got the message. He informed me he would call me when everything was ready. I told him I wanted to sue for adultery and named the 2 men as correspondents. I didn't give a damn how difficult it made things. As far as I was concerned, my marriage was over, and if things worked out, the guilty parties would pay all the costs. I would have my day in court too. Screw them all. With that done, I headed home. I pulled up outside my house and sat looking at it. Less than a week ago, I shared this with my wife. Now I knew her only as a stranger, and she would never set foot in there again. I was thinking of putting it on the market, but then I thought, no, screw it. I'm keeping it. I went inside and looked around. It felt empty. It sounded empty too. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I looked at it, it was Sarah. This was the first call today. It was almost 12 p.m. Maybe she had been otherwise engaged with David. I chuckled grimly at the thought that while I was suffering, those two were carrying on without a care in the world. I sat in my recliner, got comfortable and answered the call. Yes. You asshole. What the hell have you done? I'm getting calls from everyone about some photos and a video apparently showing something to do with me and David. You bastard. Why didn't you talk to me first? My work colleagues have been calling, giving me grief. My friends have done the same. Even the center has basically told me I'm not welcome. Why, Mike? Listen, you cheating bitch, I know everything. I know who, where, and when. I have pictures of all four of you together. I even have the video. All I need now is the damn t-shirt. Talk to you? For what? So you can tell me how you were cheating with other guys and I'm supposed to be fine with it? Never going to happen. Did you get the message yet? We need to talk, Mike. Let me explain, please. This has to stop. Stop? You witch, I have only just started. What do you mean? You and your so-called partners have pissed me off. Now you can all just screw off quietly. Or I will make you understand what consequences really mean. Don't be silly, Mike. You're just annoyed and overreacting. We need to talk, please. Overreacting? Listen, you cheating slut, I have started divorce proceedings. Want me to repeat that for you? I'm naming your affair partners in my petition, and I don't give a shit how much trouble that causes me, you or them. But I will have my way. Fight me on this and you'll get precisely nothing. You understand me? We are done. Over. Finished. Divorce? What? Why? But it was just, you can't, Mike. You can't just throw me away like that. Yes, I can, you witch, and it is you who has thrown our marriage away, not me. I'm just ending this farce. You can't be serious, Mike. Please stop and think about this. Where will I go? My friends, they all know. They're calling and saying things. The people I work with too. My boss even knows. Everyone knows because you told them, you creep. Stop this, Mike. Stop it. Not everyone knows, though, do they? What? Who doesn't know? The realization hit her. Oh my God. You haven't told my parents, have you? Please tell me you didn't. No, I haven't told them. I thought I'd leave it for you to do. Would be so much better coming from you, don't you think? Tell them how their ever-loving daughter has been screwing around with a couple of swingers and is now the talk of the town. I'm sure they'll be so proud of you. Don't you think, sweetie? I'll give you an hour from now to tell them before I do it for you. Pictures and video, all of it. Do you understand me? Which? There was silence save for the quiet sobbing over the phone. One last thing, Sarah. I know you've been staying with David. I hope you two will be very happy together. I'm sure he has plenty of friends who will want to share you with him, so you won't run out of fresh company anytime soon. Did you know he kindly left me a message yesterday? Obviously when you got back from your little getaway. He said he was going to be spending more time with you from now on. Tell him thanks for that. I have passed that on to my attorney too. You hurt me, you witch, so screw off and do whatever you and David do best. I don't want to speak to you anymore now. I just want to know why, when you're ready to tell me, call me, but don't waste my time. I'm done with you. The clock is ticking. I ended the call. My head was spinning. I was so angry I sagged back into the chair. I felt so listless, exhausted, and totally wrung out. Well, I had told her. I knew it was over, the phone call, but what the hell? She knows she's busted. I took small comfort in the fact that so many people now knew she had been cheating around and also that I had been an unknowing fool while she did it. Screw it. I poured a large bourbon and sat back down. It had been a busy day. I looked at the clock. She had 35 minutes before the time expired. I steeled myself. I wasn't sure if she would tell her parents, but if I had to do it, I wouldn't be gentle about it. I closed my eyes as the tears started to fall, stinging wet rivers down my face as I mourned the loss of my friend of so many years. I sat in a daze when the phone broke my thoughts. I looked at it as it rang, wondering who it could be. Slowly I eased myself upright and ambled unenthusiastically towards the ringing handset. I picked it up as I walked back to my chair. Hello? Mike, it's me. I just had a call from Sarah. I'm sorry, son. Really I am. She has just told me the biggest pile of crap and bull story I've ever heard. She wanted me to call you to let you know she has told us. I know you have pictures and the rest of it, but I don't need to see that. I understand now what's in the boxes you brought over. Now look, is there no way you can talk this through? I'm only asking, son. You know I think a lot of you. I gulped as I tried to formulate an answer. There were sobs building in my throat, and I was having a hard time holding them back. Look, Dad, you've been great. I'm sorry it has to be this way, but truthfully, I can't see a way around this. It's been going on for too long. Maybe a one-off thing would be different, but this has been regular deceit. I don't think I can do it. I understand, son. Look, we are both here for you anytime you need anything. You call me. You hear me? Sure, Dad. I don't know exactly what she told you, so I might send you the email with all the details on her. I'm afraid it's up to you whether you open it, but only do so if you have any doubts about her story. I'm sorry. I have to go now. Bye for now. I put the phone down, and the tears exploded from my eyes. Deep, sorrowful sobs echoed around the room. Evening came, and the room slowly darkened. I stirred from my chair and put my phone on charge. There were a few more messages that I had missed. As I looked, I saw that David had called again not long ago. I played the message. So the husband got all upset and threw his tantrum. Oh well. Listen, you loser. Sarah is with me now, so stop being a jerk and get used to it. We're going to be together day and night from now on, just like she wants it, and when I can't satisfy her, one of my friends will step in. She's already met Brian, as you know. Tonight I have visitors coming over. Don't worry, we will keep her satisfied. Night-night, Cucky. I wasn't sure what his game was other than to further humiliate me and use Sarah. This seemed to be escalating, though. Maybe this was his version of payback for his car and being booted out of the center. Either way, I didn't like it, and I was sure as hell Sarah was not aware of what he was planning. I needed to get Sarah to wise up to this guy. He was a predator, and my marriage was already toast because of him. I wasn't sure what I could or even should do. I then decided to do something really crazy. I called Brian. I had some concerns about this, but he and his wife were confirmed swingers. They had no reason to not be open about things, surely. Hello? You don't know me, but I'm Sarah's husband. Don't hang up. Okay? Listen, man, we were all consenting adults. If you have a problem, I suggest you see your wife about it. Listen, Brian, my name is Mike. I had no idea what the hell was going on until last weekend. Now I'm dealing with my wife, but that's not why I called you. I want to know about David. What the hell is he up to? I know he used my wife as his swing partner, but what else is he into? Listen, Mike, your wife is your problem. I've known David only for a few months, and to be fair, I'm not keen on playing with him anymore. He likes to get a little rough, if you know what I mean. Swapping is one thing, but he's getting so it's a little more than just swapping, sort of more demanding, if you get my drift. Also, we've never used anything before or needed enhancement drugs, but he does. That's what happened at the weekend. He kept going and going. He was rough with my wife and still wanted more. She got worried, and to be honest, so did I. He mentioned group activities before. To you, I know this is weird, but I need to know. Yes, he did. He also talked about more extreme scenarios, but I'm not into that, and neither is my wife. We like to play, of course, but that's going too far. I don't know if he mentioned that to Sarah. I'd be surprised if he did, though, as he only asked me on the side. He said it would be a surprise for the girls if we arranged it. I told him no way, and that's when I decided we were done with him. If you're asking about it, I think something may have happened then. Well, yes, it has, but I'm putting two and two together here. Sarah and I aren't together at the moment, but I'm still concerned about her. You split? But we thought you were okay with it all. That's what they both said to us. Oh my God, man. And I'm sorry. Honestly, we didn't know. Thanks for that, at least, but it doesn't help us any. I'm going to try to get hold of Sarah before something bad happens. Okay? Look, good luck. If there's anything we can do, just ask. I'm sorry, man. I put the phone down. It was almost 7 p.m. I called Tony and told him the latest. Within 20 minutes, we were both headed towards David's house on Chicago's north side. We parked down the road from his house in Lincoln Park. Did you bring the gear? Yes, of course I did. What am I, stupid? It's all there. We scrambled into the back of his truck and changed clothes into dark coveralls and baseball caps. There was also a bag with duct tape and some restraints. I looked at my watch. It was almost 8:30 p.m. Where had the time gone? I hoped we were in time. One way or another, whatever was going on was going to stop tonight. For Christ's sake, Mike, go easy. Don't lose it or we could face jail. We just need to get her out of there, no matter what Sarah has done. She doesn't deserve to be hurt. Okay? You clear? I nodded at him, my adrenaline pumping as I was keen to get this over with. Straight in through the back door, grab Sarah and out. Okay? Don't forget. Minimal contact with anyone else. It was dark outside now. We slipped out of the truck and silently moved across the road and down the side of David's townhouse. We eased over the back fence and left our escape route clear. As we neared the back patio doors, we could hear voices and laughter from inside. I froze. Too late. Tony poked me and we shuffled towards the back door to the kitchen. He leaned on the handle and it moved easily. He looked at me as he pulled his cap down low. We crept through the kitchen towards the light glowing into the hallway from the living room area. The voices grew louder, the unmistakable sound of Sarah and the chuckles from the men in the room. We could make out the flash of a camera as they took photos. That's it. She is really something. David, you have a real find here. Yes. Shame her husband couldn't give her what she needed. They all laughed at that. Still, he will get to see the video we're making, and that will pay the idiot back for my car. I was getting really agitated now, and Tony was getting set to act. We looked at each other and counted fingers down from 3, 2, 1, when we moved quickly through the doorway. David was closest to the door. Tony grabbed him and pushed him down hard. The guy with Sarah yelled as the shock caused her to react. I moved to grab her while Tony dealt with the other man. 2 down, and we looked around to see a woman in the corner. The woman started screaming. Tony moved toward her. Don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me, she said, staring at him. We looked at each other, not sure what to do. I looked around. Sarah was barely conscious when we arrived. She lay on the couch, and there were marks on her arms and neck. It looked like this had been quite a rough session. As much as I was angry at her for what she had done, I couldn't leave her like this. We managed to find out that the woman, Joyce, was with one of the guys. We made it clear to her that this situation was getting out of hand, and we were getting Sarah out of there before it got worse. Tony spoke to her firmly, and she agreed to stay quiet. The men were in no state to cause trouble for a while. We collected the cameras and recording equipment, making sure to remove all the memory cards. I dressed Sarah, who was still pretty out of it, definitely under the influence of something. The woman confirmed they had all been using substances, which explained her condition. We turned off all the lights and left, carrying my wife. In the truck, we put a blanket around her and gave her some water we'd brought. Pulling up outside her parents' house, I looked around, and Tony knocked on the door. When the door opened, I carried Sarah inside. The look on her mom's face said everything. I carried her straight upstairs to her old bedroom. I made sure she was comfortable and covered her with a blanket. It brought tears to my eyes as I looked at the woman I had loved for so long, now in this condition. Mike, what is going on? Her mom had followed me up the stairs, her father right behind. Sarah needs you both right now. I can't explain it all right now, but she has been in a bad situation that was only going to get worse. Tony and I got her out of there before something really terrible happened. She may not thank me, but I do care about her, no matter what she has done. Take care of her. I've got to go. We left quickly and drove back to Tony's place. I looked at Tony. We were both shaken by what we'd seen. That could have been really bad, Mike. I think we got there just in time. Yeah, thanks, man. I know this was crazy, but I couldn't just leave her there. I lay in bed at Tony's house, listening to the silence. I opened my eyes to focus on the clock face. It was just after 9 a.m., and I had slept for about 6 hours. That was better than I expected. Today I lay in bed thinking about the empty space where my wife would have been normally, but these weren't normal times anymore. I sighed as I recalled the events of the past few days. She wasn't here and probably hadn't really been emotionally present for some time, in truth. That thought saddened me. The ache in my chest started, and my eyes misted with tears for my loss. The loss of my friend and lover. my life, my marriage, my future too. I sobbed as the tears flowed freely. I could not move as my heart broke. The grief overcame me for several minutes as I mourned my loss. The phone rang, a persistent and annoying ringing. Lisa appeared at the door. "Mike, you okay? Sorry if I woke you. I didn't mean to disturb you. I'm fine, really. Well, no, I'm not really. It's all been a bit much to handle. I just feel lost or something." "I will be okay," I replied, not really convincing myself. "Are you up and dressed? If not, get dressed and come downstairs. We're having a late breakfast. You need to eat and look after yourself now. We can talk about what you want to happen next. So come on, get moving." 15 minutes later, I was downstairs. The drive over to the kitchen was strangely comforting. Lisa had made eggs and bacon, and the smell made me realize I was actually hungry. Emma and Jake were going to need to know what was happening. With all the drama, I hadn't given either of them much conscious thought. I would have to do something to contact them both soon. Jake was away on his soccer trip and was due back at the end of next week, but I needed to tell him that things had changed dramatically. But how do I tell him what his mother had been doing? Emma was on vacation with 3 of her girlfriends, having fun before starting college. I would have to try her cell phone, but there was no telling if I could get through. The thought of having to explain their mother's behavior was not something I looked forward to. They were old enough to understand what she had done, but if I couldn't understand why, then what chance did they have? Lisa looked at me, holding my face so I couldn't look away. "You are a good man. Don't you forget it. Just because Sarah has messed up doesn't mean it's your fault or that all women are that way." "Put the poor man down," Tony said, rolling his eyes at his wife as she stood with tears building up. We sat and ate a hearty breakfast, just what I needed after the tension of the past few days. "Well, we're still here, man. No police or anything, so maybe things will stay that way." "Let's hope so," Tony said, sipping his coffee as he looked at me. "Yeah, thanks for everything, man. I really appreciate it. You too, Lisa. I love you guys." Yeah, enough of that crap. We need to work out what's next." "Well, I still need to figure out what to do about Sarah's car. I don't know if I should get it towed to her parents' place or just leave it where it is. I don't know how I feel about her at this moment." Lisa looked at me and put her hand on mine. "Look, Mike, it's been hell these past few days. Maybe you need to take a breather before you do anything else. First thing is to make sure David isn't going to cause any more problems. And of course, you'll need to talk to the kids and Sarah too. After that, are you going to try to work it out with her or what?" "Lisa, I can't get past what she did. Even after last night, she still went into this willingly and cheated on me with David and Brian, and maybe others for almost 6 months. I can't forgive that, however much I love her and hate what she did. I couldn't just leave her to be hurt, could I? The thing is, Mike, she may well have wanted that treatment. We don't really know, do we?" I stared at her as her words sank in. She was right. Sarah may have wanted to be used like that. It was incredible to me. She'd never shown any signs of wanting that sort of thing before. I had no idea. I began to wonder if I knew her at all. That's what worries me. If that's the case, then I don't know her at all. And if she's chosen that sort of lifestyle, then I'm not part of it. We're done. I'd already started hitting back at her from several directions at once because I couldn't get past what she'd done. "You're gonna have to speak to her sometime, Mike." "I don't have to, Tony. If I need to know anything, I can talk to her parents or go through my lawyer. The wheels are turning there already, as well as the chaos I started among her work colleagues and friends. My concern now is the kids. Luckily, they're both away, and I don't see the point in telling Jake until he gets home next week. Although thinking about it, there's always a chance he could hear something through one of his teammates' parents. I'll have to contact him soon, I think. Emma's backpacking, and I don't expect another call from her until the end of this week. I'll email her and get her to contact me ASAP. Want me to call her parents and see how things are, Mike?" Lisa asked. "Yeah, that might be good. I need to know how Sarah is doing, but I don't think I can handle talking to them directly right now." I sat in Tony's home office while Lisa made the call. I could hear her talking, and after a few minutes, she came to find me. "She's okay, Mike. Shaken up, but okay. Her mom said she's been asking about you. She wants to thank you for what you did. I don't need thanks. I just couldn't leave her in that situation. Her father wants to talk to you when you're ready. No pressure, but whenever you feel up to it. I nodded. Maybe in a few days when I'd had time to process everything. An hour or so later, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello. Is this Mike Thompson? Yes. Who is this? This is Detective Rodriguez with Chicago PD. We've had a report about an incident last night involving your wife. Can you come down to the station to answer a few questions? My blood ran cold. Is she in trouble? No, sir. We just need to clarify a few things about what happened. It's routine in cases like this. I'll be there in an hour. I looked at Tony and Lisa. The cops want to talk to me. Don't worry, man. You did the right thing. Just tell them the truth. The police station was downtown, and I spent 2 hours explaining what had happened. Detective Rodriguez was actually pretty understanding. Look, Mr. Thompson, what you did was technically assault, but given the circumstances and the fact that your wife was clearly in danger, we're not going to pursue charges. David Martinez has a history with us, drug possession, harassment complaints. Frankly, you probably saved your wife from something much worse. What happens now? We're recommending that your wife get some help. There are programs for people who've gotten involved in situations like this. As for Martinez, he's facing charges for drug possession and what we found on those cameras. He won't be bothering anyone for a while. I drove home feeling somewhat relieved. At least that chapter was closed. 2 days later, I put the phone down after speaking to my daughter. My face was wet from tears that had fallen as I explained in basic terms what her mother had done. Emma was sobbing too, but remained strong in her support for me. I was her hero, and she was behind me all the way. Even though she didn't understand all of what her mother had done, she knew that if Sarah had hurt her dad, that was all the reason she needed. Dad, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Mom, I just can't believe she would do this. You don't deserve any of this. Thanks, sweetheart. It's going to be tough for a while, but we'll get through this together. Okay? The call with Jake was different. He was defensive of his mother but realized he was fighting an uphill battle as I remained firm on my intent to divorce. Dad, come on. Can't you guys work this out? I mean, maybe counseling or something. This is crazy. You and Mom have been together forever. Son, some things can't be fixed. Your mother made choices that I can't live with. I'm not asking you to pick sides, but I need you to understand that this marriage is over. I was saddened but in some way relieved as I sat back with my children's voices echoing in my head. Are you sure, Dad? Kept ringing over and over as I stared out across the patio at the gathering Chicago twilight. Damn right I'm sure, I said aloud as I finished the last of my bourbon. Over the next several weeks, I threw myself into work and the divorce proceedings. My lawyer, Jim Martinez, was methodical and thorough. Mike, with the evidence you have and the police report from that night, this should be pretty straightforward. Illinois is a no-fault state, but the adultery evidence will definitely affect the settlement. Sarah tried to contact me several times, but I had Lisa and Tony screen my calls. I wasn't ready to talk to her, and honestly, I didn't know if I ever would be. Her parents kept me informed of her progress. She was in counseling and seemed to be getting better, but she was also dealing with the reality that her choices had consequences. She knows she messed up, Mike. Her father told Tony during one of their calls. She's not asking for forgiveness or trying to get back together. She just wants you to know that she's sorry and that she understands why you can't forgive her. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Sarah kept her parents' house as her address, and I kept our house and most of the assets. She didn't fight it. I think she knew she had no ground to stand on. The kids adjusted better than I expected. Emma started at Northwestern as planned, and Jake finished his senior year strong. They both maintained a relationship with their mother, which I encouraged. Whatever Sarah had done to me, she was still their mom. 1 year later, I was working late at the Yellow Cab Dispatch Center when the call came in. It was Sarah's father, and I could tell immediately something was wrong. Mike, I'm sorry to bother you. There's been an incident. My heart stopped. Is it one of the kids? No. To Sarah, there was a situation at David's place last night. Some kind of party that got out of hand. Someone was high on drugs and got violent. He's dead, Mike. And Sarah's in the ICU at Northwestern Memorial. I sat there among the dispatch boards and radio chatter, trying to process what he'd told me. How bad? Bad. The doctors aren't sure she'll make it. Mike, I know things are complicated, but I'll be there in 20 minutes. I found myself driving through the empty Chicago streets toward the hospital. Northwestern Memorial was where both our kids had been born, where we'd spent many anxious hours over the years. Her parents were in the waiting room, looking older than I'd ever seen them. Her mother hugged me when she saw me. Thank you for coming, Mike. I know it's difficult. How is she? Unconscious. Severe head trauma, internal bleeding. The doctors say the next 48 hours are critical. I sat with them for a while, not really talking, just being present. Around 3 a.m., a doctor came out to update us. Are you family? He asked, looking at me. Ex-husband, I replied. She's stable for now, but the injuries are extensive. We're doing everything we can. I left the hospital as the sun was coming up over Lake Michigan. I called in sick to work and drove home to think. 2 days later, Sarah's father called again. She's gone, Mike. Passed away this morning around 6 a.m. Peacefully, the doctors said. I hung up the phone and sat in my kitchen, looking out at the backyard where Sarah used to tend her garden. I felt empty. No relief, no sadness, no anger. Just a hollow space where strong emotions used to live. I didn't go to the funeral. I sent flowers. Simple white lilies with a card that just said, "For the mother of my children." Emma and Jake went, of course. They needed that closure. That night, I sat in my recliner with a glass of bourbon and thought about the woman I'd once loved. Then I set it down and went to bed. It was finally, truly over. Thank you for your viewing. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to JK Tells a Story for more tales.